Hi everyone and welcome to Bookboop. My name is Rachel and today I'm doing a very special video. This is my first ever Q&A video for my 500 subscriber celebration. I have hit 500 subscribers, which is absolutely insane. And recently I posted a short video thanking you all for, first of all, helping me get to that number and then also to give me some questions. And honestly, I was really nervous thinking I wouldn't get any. And I got 27 questions to answer, which is insane. I love that. So thank you to all of you who submitted questions for me to answer. If you didn't get to submit questions and you want to, please submit some down below. If I get enough more, I'll do a part 2 Q&A, or if not, I'll just answer your question down below. But it'd be really crazy if I got enough questions to do another one. I wanted to do a Q&A and shout out video combined, but since I have so many questions, I'm just gonna do the Q&A in this one, and I'll do some shout outs in a future video. But let's go ahead and jump into these questions because there are quite a few and I don't want you all to have to sit here forever and hopefully this is an interesting video. So let's go ahead and jump in. First of all, paperback or hardback, digital or physical, my likes and dislikes of them. I'm definitely a hardback girl. I love some hardback books. It's usually the choice. That's what I will pick if I could choose between purchasing one or the other. I usually almost always pick hardback unless for some reason I like the paperback better, which was actually the case for the Diviner series by Libba Bray because I like the newer paperback covers better. I think those are the only ones that really match. So I think that's the only case I can think of. Normally, I will almost always pick a hardback. I will agree that a paperback is a little bit more comfortable to read in a way, except I'm one of those people that tries to avoid breaking the spine at all costs. And so I'll read it very uncomfortably, just like barely opening it, especially if it's a real thick one, so I don't break the spine. So hardbacks to me are a lot more comfortable because I feel like I can fully open the book and I'm not worried about like getting that huge crack in the spine. I definitely like physical books over digital. However, I do really love reading books on my Kindle. I find that I actually read books faster that way, and I think it's because of the Kindle that I have, like it can have a backlit screen to it, and so I can read it in the dark, I can read it late at night, I can easily read it while I eat because it's got, the case I have is a little prop and I can just prop it up, so I don't even have to be like sitting holding a page open while I eat because that's normally why I don't eat and read because I'm afraid I'm going to get food all over my book. So in this case, it's a waterproof Kindle that it's propped up, and so I can easily read and eat at the same time. I'm able to get a lot more reading in with a Kindle than a physical book, but I do love me a physical book, especially because I can tell how far along I am in the book. I know the percentage is at the bottom of the thing on the Kindle, but that's just not enough for me. I like seeing how much of the book I have left. So that's kind of my thing with that. I think I was also asked if I like mass market paperbacks. I detest them. I hate them. My husband actually reads a lot of them, but to me the font is way too small. Usually they're really thick, and again with the breaking spine thing, I don't want to break the spine. So it's really, those are just so hard to read and the font is so tiny. So not a fan of mass market paperbacks, to be completely honest. I don't own any anymore. I used to have one. Not anymore. Can't stand them. My 5 favorite books of all time. This was a really, really hard question to answer because it's like my babies. I love books. I have so many books that I love. So I try to think about through my lifetime what have been some of my favorite books and not getting stuck on the books that I've read just this year. So I would say through my lifetime, my favorites have been Alice in Wonderland, Wait Till Helen Comes, which is by Mary Downing Hahn. That was probably my favorite childhood book. Goblet of Fire, that's my favorite Harry Potter book. City of Ghosts by Victoria Schwab is one of my newest kind of books that I really, really enjoy. It's got that like ghosty creepiness that I love from when I was a kid, but it's like a book that came out more recently. I adore it. And The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern because it is so darn just atmospheric. I absolutely love that book. It's so good and I need to reread it sometime. But those I would say, those are the 5 that popped in my head. There's way more books that I absolutely love, but those are the 5 that popped in my head. Where do you see yourself and your channel this time next year or even 5 years from now? So I am hoping, I made a goal of hitting 500 subscribers in 2020, which I've said before is a silly goal because I have no control over that whatsoever. I hit the goal, which is amazing, and I can't believe I did. I would love to see this time next year to get to maybe 700 to gain maybe a couple hundred more subscribers. I'm hoping to get more in the groove of posting maybe a couple videos a week. I did for a little bit, like a month or two, I was doing like these mini vlogs, and I still want to do those because they're really fun. I want to get better at doing vlogs and doing more like week-long vlogs. I would love to learn how to do like B-roll and do some more things like that. But also, most of you know that I don't do any edits on my videos, and so doing like fancier vlogs is not something that's going to be easy for me to do because I feel like I don't have the time and able to invest the time to make more complicated videos. So I would like to see me kind of delve more into trying some more kind of like artistic videos or more videos that are a little bit more complicated to make. But it'd be really cool to hit about 700 next year. That'd be really neat. Again, I have no control over that, and if I don't hit it, that's okay. I'm not here for the numbers. It's just exciting to see people actually are interested in my videos. About 5 years from now, this is like the dream. My dream is to one day hit 1,000 subscribers. That to me feels like the most lofty number. It feels so unattainable. If I were to hit 1,000 subscribers, that'd be amazing. And also, I would really love to be on publishers' mailing lists. Just to be sent books. There's nothing like book mail. It's wonderful. And the idea of just like publishers sending me books to just read and talk about, like that sounds amazing. So for me, it's like hitting 1,000 subscribers and being on a publisher's mailing list sounds like amazing. That would be really cool. If I could be there 5 years from now, that'd be insane. If I'm still doing videos 5 years from now, I'm gonna be proud of myself. That's some dedication. At least I feel like it is. All right, let's go to the next question. Recommendations when in a slump. This question, when I was thinking about this, it makes me want to do a video on it, and I might actually do that because I had a lot of ideas for this. So personally, I don't really get into reading slumps very often. I'm a very driven person with my reading. So I will say, first of all, if you are like me and you are a list person and you just get so much joy from checking off a list, I highly encourage you to create a TBR, either a monthly TBR or even a weekly TBR, or give yourself goals such as I plan to read this many pages today or something like that. If you are a goal-minded person and you find yourself falling into a slump, give yourself some goals. That will push you forward. At least it does for me. Having the monthly TBRs helps me a lot because in the back of my mind, not only do I need to do it because of my videos and I need to read to create content, but also I'm like, okay, these are the books I wanted to read this month. I gotta keep going if I want to hit that goal. So first of all, I would say that if you're a goal-oriented person, I would say go for having some kind of a list. Second, I would say go for some books that are very fast-paced, that are intentionally fast-paced. For example, I would try reading some thrillers. Some adult thrillers I've been reading recently by Riley Sager, such as Lock Every Door, Home Before Dark. Those have been some amazing ones. I also read The Whisper Man by Alex North. I love that one as well. I highly encourage reading thrillers. Those books are intentionally written to be fast-paced, to grab you. So I would go for a book that really, really grabs you. Now, if you aren't like an adult thriller type person, if that kind of thing doesn't really interest you, I actually highly, highly recommend going for some middle grades. The reason I say that is because middle grades are written for a younger audience, and usually younger audiences have a lower attention span. So the books are written for someone with a lower attention span. So usually the plots are fast-paced. Usually there are a lot of exciting plot points. They move quickly. So I highly recommend actually reading some middle grades. There's so many different types you can read. Some of my favorites are kind of spooky middle grades. Mary Downing Hahn's really fun. Jonathan Auzier's really great. He wrote The Night Gardener and Sweep. Those are amazing. I highly recommend the Nevermore series by Jessica Townsend if you want something that's much more whimsical and almost Harry Potter vibes. The Land of Story series by Chris Colfer is also a great one. I really just highly recommend picking something that's intentionally supposed to be fast-paced. I feel like that's the best way to get yourself out of a slump, is something that will grab you. If you're going towards books that are just moving really slow and you're not really interested in what you're reading, you're going to struggle. Especially too, I will highly encourage it, and I understand the struggle with this if you're not one to do this. If you are reading a book and you feel like it's putting you into a slump or you're just not feeling it, it's okay to set it aside. You don't have to permanently DNF it. You don't have to permanently say, I'm never going to finish this book. But if it's pulling you into a slump and you don't want to go there, set that book aside and pick something else that interests you. Either something that just interests you right now, or picking something, like I said, that's fast-paced. So that's kind of like in a nutshell what I think you should do if you feel like you're falling into a slump. Hopefully that is helpful. Does where I live affect my reading? I would say no. I live in Tennessee, and I don't really see where I live affecting what I read. I guess I could say where I work affects what I read sometimes. I work at a church, and a lot of my coworkers will read books that are self-help, self-growth, informational books, and that's not something I lean towards, but I find myself actually reading more of those because of the other people I work with, and also thankfully at my job, self-development is highly valued, and one of the things we can do for self-development is to read books, and so a lot of times I will take the opportunity to read books like that are more self-help type books or informational type books that I can read for work, and it gives me opportunity to delve into some books I normally wouldn't gravitate towards. So I would say that's probably the only thing, but I wouldn't say where I live necessarily affects what I read. Book characters I relate to and why. This one was an interesting question and actually felt like it was hard to answer. I thought of two characters. First of all, I feel like this is a character everybody picks, so I'm sorry if it sounds horribly cliche, but the first one that pops in my head is Hermione Granger. Not for her bravery, I will say. I am not as brave as Hermione Granger. I know that absolute for a fact. But I will say when it comes to her drive and how much she cares about her education and how much she cares about doing the best she possibly can and pushing herself to be the best she possibly can in everything, whether it's in school or her friendships or things like that, I highly, highly just get that. I totally relate to it. That is so me. I think like as an Enneagram, I think she's considered a type 1, which is what I am as well. And so I just highly relate to her. Also, I think I relate to Lucy Pevensey from the Chronicles of Narnia. She's the youngest Pevensey child. She's the one that first finds Narnia. I can't talk. She reminds me, I feel like I relate to her because when I was a kid, which I think is true about most of us that read a lot and just think back on our childhoods, but I was very imaginative as a kid, and the idea of finding a magical world in a wardrobe or just flying to Neverland or things like that, those are things that I constantly just daydreamed about and dreamed about, and I feel like I had that unbound belief when I was a kid of just finding a magical place and being able to imagine that. So I see a lot of myself in Lucy Pevensey in that way, where how quickly she would believe about falling into a magical world. So I think I relate to her as well. At least I hope I do. All right, next question. If I was able to change one thing in my favorite book, what would you change? This one was hard too, and I feel like this is another kind of cliche answer. I'm sorry, I'm tripping over my words. This video is making me nervous. I would say probably I would change a lot of the deaths in the Harry Potter series. There are so many people that die that I just don't want them to die. So I think I probably would save a lot of characters in the Harry Potter series, to be perfectly honest. I think that's what I would change. I couldn't think of anything in any of the other books or some of my favorite series or books, but that one sticks out to me because there are certain characters you just love and you don't want them to be gone. And I know it's impactful, and I know that it creates an amazing story when not characters aren't safe, but oh man, there's certain characters I would love to save in that series. All right. Moving on. Oh, and by the way, if you can hear licking, smacking sounds, I'm sorry. My dog is chewing and licking on his paws like it's his job. All right, next question. This is a really fun one. Do I have any personal spooky stories? I don't have any personal spooky stories specifically. I have not had a paranormal experience. However, I do have a relatively spooky story of a conversation that I had with my daughter. My daughter is 4 years old. We were playing Barbies. She was playing Cinderella, and she was talking about how her stepsisters were being so mean to her and bossing her around, and she just didn't like them. And she said, "Mommy, I need to send the stepsisters to Jesus." And I said, "Oh, you mean you want to send them to church so they can learn about Jesus?" And she said, "No, I'm going to send them to Jesus under the grass." Dead serious face. First of all, shock, like, what did you just say? And then I just started laughing because it was one of the creepiest yet funniest things I had heard my child say. Now, my child has said some creepy and also funny things. You never know what's going to come out of a kid's mouth. But my goodness, I laughed so hard, and I have had so much fun telling that story to other people because it makes my child sound like she's going to grow up to be a serial killer. Like, it just sounded so creepy. And I know she didn't really realize what she said, but I was just like, what? So anyways, that's my spooky story for you. You're welcome. Feel free to repeat it to other people. Have I noticed any changes in my reading habits or taste since I started Booktube? I would say very much so. First of all, I am reading way more books than I normally would. When I first started Booktube, I was reading maybe 2-3 books a month. I'm now reading on average close to 10 books a month, which is insane. I didn't usually used to create TBRs for myself. I would just sort of go by whatever book sounded good next, which I kind of do that too when I put TBRs together, but I didn't have a set TBR at the time. I would say I'm much more open to reading different genres. I read way more adult than I used to. I used to never gravitate away from middle grade and YA. I'm just reading a lot more different stuff. I've read some books I never thought I would read. I mean, I read both a couple of popular Taylor Jenkins Reid's books. I read Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo and Daisy Jones and the Six. Those are things I would have never have thought to touch before. I've been reading thrillers. I've been just really delving into some other things. Oh, I read The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna, which is a historical fiction. I mean, that's stuff I never would have thought to touch. But I feel like ever since I've been on Booktube, I've become more open to reading different types of genres and different types of books. There are still ones that I avoid, but I'm way more open to it now because you hear all this hype about these different books and I get interested in them, and it's not something I normally ever would have picked. So it's really cool to see how my tastes and everything have changed, and it's been really fun. I'm interested to see, maybe to think through this question again a year from now to see if it's changed even since then, but it's been really cool to see how many different types of genres and age ranges I've actually been reading this year, or just like since I started Booktube. It's pretty crazy. What is my favorite Booktube memory? Honestly, I think my favorite one is when I was reached out to by a writer about reading his book before it was released and getting an arc of it. That was really cool. That was the first time that it ever happened to me, and I felt so freaking special and like, why are you reaching out to me? Like, it felt really weird. And even though the book didn't end up being something I ended up loving, I felt so honored that someone took the time to like reach out to me and say, hey, I like the way you review books. Will you review mine? Like, that's just insane to me. I'm like, what? So I think that was the coolest one. And I had so much fun like telling my friends at the book club that I'm in real life, like, hey, I got contacted by an author. It was really cool. Like, I mean, I never thought that would happen before, and I'm saying like, and I mean a lot. I'm sorry, I'm excited about it, but that's probably my most memorable Booktube memory so far. I've had a lot of other really cool memories, but that one sticks out to me the most because it made me feel really special, and it was a really, really cool thing to happen. What's a genre that I love that others seem to hate? I don't feel like there's a genre that I read on Booktube that other people hate. And I wouldn't say hate feels like a strong word. I will say that in the book club I'm in, I would say that I am the only one that reads creepy books, like intentionally reads paranormal, spooky books or horror. Some of my other friends read some thrillers, but not many of them gravitate specifically to paranormal and horror. So I would say that's probably the one genre that I don't really tend to like sync up with a lot of people that I know. So I wouldn't say it's like a hated genre, definitely, but it's a genre I feel like not as many people around me tend to read, at least that I tend to talk to or know that often. Which TV shows from your childhood have aged well and aged terribly? This was a very interesting question. I couldn't actually think of any that really necessarily aged terribly. I had trouble actually thinking back and trying to remember what things I watched. I do think that the majority of Disney Channel original movies have aged well. I love Halloween Town and Halloween Town 2. I love Luck of the Irish and The 13th Tale. Is that the name of it? 13th Year. There's so many good. My mom goes on a date with a vampire. I think that's the name of it. There's so many good Disney Channel original movies, and I think they have aged so well, and I love them. I also will say I feel like Animaniacs has aged well. That's a show I really loved as a kid. I have all the seasons on DVD. I haven't watched them in a really long time, but it's just a crazily witty show. There were so many jokes on it that were directed towards the adults. Like, the kids would not get it. Some of the jokes are honestly highly inappropriate, and I'm shocked that they actually got clearance to get aired. It's pretty nuts. Sorry. I got a tickle in my throat. So I would say Animaniacs has aged well, and I'm really excited that it's gotten a reboot. I haven't gotten to watch it yet, but I'm really, really excited to watch it. I think it's going to be so funny to see Animaniacs in today's context and just our climate. I think it's going to be really funny. So I feel like there's a lot of things I watched as a kid that have actually aged really well and have been really fun to like gently push toward my child. And they're like, here, watch this. I feel like it's been really fun. Anticipated releases in 2021. So I'm not going to talk about this one that much because I will do a video saying all the books that I'm excited to release in 2021. I usually make that video every year, so I don't want to like blab about a bunch of stuff now, but I will say my most anticipated release for 2021 was actually supposed to come out this year, and that is Bridge of Souls by Victoria Schwab. It's the third book in the Cassidy Blake series, or the City of Ghosts series. I'm really excited about it. It was supposed to come out I think in September or October of 2020, and it got pushed to March of 2021. So that's probably the book I am the most excited about. I actually need to do some more research and see what's coming out next year, because I feel like I haven't looked ahead enough to remember and know, but I will definitely make a video talking about what books I am really excited to release in 2021. So that will be coming your way in the next few months. All right, next question here. I've lost my way in this thing. All right, am I planning to read more romance before the end of the year? First of all, I don't read romance. I don't like romance. And nothing terrible to people who love it. If you love it, get after it, because, I mean, some people have to love it, right? There's some books I read I don't like, and some people love them. And that's great. That's a wonderful thing about Booktube. That's a wonderful thing about reading. Everyone has a different experience. I am not a romance reader. I will say the only book that I'm reading this year that is romance focused is Instant Karma by Marissa Meyer, which I just picked up from the library today. It is one of my most anticipated releases of the year, and I'm very excited to read it. And it is technically a rom-com. It's a romance, which is way off the spectrum of what I normally read. But other than that, I'm not really reading any romances this year. Don't really plan to. It's just not my genre. Any book that I read, usually the romance is my least favorite part of the book. It's just not something that it's just not something I tend to really excite me or get me that interested in a story. I like things outside of the romance portion. I don't mind if it's there, but it's never my favorite thing. So Instant Karma is the only one I'm going to be reading, and I cannot wait to read it. I'm so pumped. Top 3 favorite authors of 2020. That would be Riley Sager. I have read 2 Riley Sager books. I can't wait to read more. Such good thrillers. Shauna McGuire's another one. I read the Wayward Children series. I think that's what that's called. And I really, really liked it a lot. I'm excited about the next one coming out in January, I believe. So that's been a really, really fun series to read. And I've really enjoyed Shauna McGuire's writing style. Other one is Daniel Vega. My goodness, you guys. She wrote The Haunted and The Unleashed. And they're some of the creepiest books I've read, and I love them so much. And I can't wait to read more by Daniel Vega, because it's exactly what I want in a spooky paranormal book. It really is. So those are the 3 authors that stick out to me for 2020. Who inspired me to be a booktuber? So really quick story. So I had no earthly idea what Booktube was, never had heard about it before. I had just kind of started wanting to get back into reading and focusing my time on reading. And so I started looking up online for like podcasts and things about reading. And then while I was kind of like researching and trying to find some podcasts maybe I'd be interested in, I kept hearing this word called Booktube. And I was like, I've never heard of that. Is that a website? What is this? And so I started doing some more research and found out it was basically just like this subgenre group within YouTube called Booktube of people that create videos about what they read. And I stumbled upon Dash of Ash, Ashley over at that channel, and she's the first booktuber I ever watched. I watched a couple of her videos and I was like, oh my goodness. First of all, this is amazing. Second, I could totally do this. I was like, I want to make a channel and talk about the books that I read, because at the time I didn't have any other friends that read books. My husband and I, we both like to read, but we both read vastly different types of books. He loves the really big, epic, long fantasies. I am the opposite. And so we didn't have books to talk about mutually, and I didn't have any friends that read. And so I was like, oh my goodness, I want to start a booktube channel, because then I could talk about somewhere I can talk about the books that I read, and maybe I'll get to meet people who actually read similar books that I read. And when I can have discussions, I can make friends. And I was so excited. And so I honestly, just a couple weeks after I found out what Booktube was, I started a Booktube channel because I was really excited about it. So that's kind of, I would say, I guess, Ashley over Dash of Ash was kind of my inspiration, but just in general, just seeing all these people have created these videos talking about books, I was like, this is amazing. Where has it been all my life? So I jumped in pretty darn quick after hearing about Booktube. All right, next one. Most challenging aspect of being a booktuber. Content. Coming up with content. That is the hardest thing to me. I'm sure it's probably something simple to a lot of other people, some people that are way more creative than I am, but since I don't edit videos and I am not really that creative when it comes to thinking up content, most of my videos are not very original. They're almost all like TBR and wrap-ups and stuff, which I'm fine with. Like, I'm fine with the fact that's mainly what I do, because that's what I want to do and it's my channel and I can do what I want. But content is definitely the hardest, especially if you have a set schedule. Like, I want to have at least one video a week come up. And if I want that, then I got to think of a different type of video to make every week, which sometimes can get very, very stressful and overwhelming, because a lot of times I'm not creative enough to think of a video. So I'd say content is the hardest thing about being a booktuber, to be completely honest. But if you're a very creative person, go for it, because then you would have a great time. All right, this next one was really fun to do earlier today. How many books are in my personal library? 169. I told my husband that and he looked at me like I was crazy. He was like, what? I have 169 books here, and then also down on my TBR cart, and a few others sprinkled throughout the house as decoration. So yes, I need to get it to 200, am I right? All right, next one. Do I borrow a lot of books from my library? Yes. I do. I do borrow a lot of books from my library. I kind of have a certain way that I purchase books. I usually don't buy books that I haven't read unless they are books that are not available at my local library. If they're available at my local library, then I won't purchase them. And usually I'll only, if I read a book at the library and I end up loving it, like really love it, then I will put it on a wish list to remind myself to purchase or ask for my birthday or Christmas at some point, so I can add it to my shelves. But I do borrow from the library a lot. I love getting books from my local library. It's like, it's the cheapest way to get that like high and thrill of buying books, except you're not paying for them. It's just, I feel like I'm getting away with something every single time. Like, I picked up Instant Karma today, which is one of my most anticipated releases. And I went giggling back to the car because I was so excited. I got my book that I can't wait to read. I didn't have to buy it. And it's great. So I highly recommend going to the library, because it can make you feel happy without actually spending the money on it. All right. Favorite place to read? My house. My bed, my couch. That's pretty much the two places I love to read. I'm not someone that can easily read anywhere or read in public. I get distracted way too easily. I like either silence or like an ASMR in the background with like rain, thunderstorm sounds, or like a crackling fireplace. But if I'm on my bed, I got a blanket on me and a pillow. If I'm on the couch, got a blanket on me and a pillow. That's where I read. That's what I do. It's got to be cozy. So that's where I like to read. Do I enjoy book tag videos? Would I want to do the blindfold book cover challenge? Yes, I love doing book tags. They honestly don't do that well. Not very many people tend to watch them, but they're really fun to do because it's easy content. Content is very hard to come up with. Book tags are like, it's handed to you on a platter. Here are specific questions to answer. Do the tag. It's so It's so much easier than trying to think of original content. So yes, I love book tags, and I'd never heard of this challenge, and I totally want to do it because it's one I can do with my husband. Apparently I would be blindfolded and my husband would try to explain what's on the cover of a book, and I would have to try to guess what the book is from his explanation. I think that would be really, really fun. So I want to do that in the future, and I love doing videos with my husband because if you've seen him on a video, he's goofy as all get out. What kind of dog is Moon Moon? How old is he, and what's in his adoption story? So some of you possibly have seen my dog. A lot of times he comes up to me while I'm trying to film and sticks his nose up. His name is Moon Moon, as in the moon that's in the sky at night. He is a mix of who knows what. He's a rescue dog. His mother and him and his sister were found on the side of the road, apparently. And they know the mom is a mix of Beagle and Chihuahua, but they have no idea what the dad was. So he is a mix of who knows what, but whatever the mix is freaking adorable because he's one of the cutest dogs ever. He is 6 years old. We adopted him in 2014, just I think like a month after he was born or something like that. And we got him at the local pet shop out where we live. I think they had like an adoption day every Saturday. They would have dogs outside of this pet store. And we went by one day and we'd been thinking about getting a dog, and we just walked by and him and his sister were there, and they were so cute and they were so tiny, and he was just a chubby little ball of fur and his floppy ears, and he was so cute. And so we snapped him up. He's adorable, and he's my sweet boy, and he's chilled out so much. He used to be so hyperactive, and he still really loves to play, but honestly, he's gotten fat. He just loves to lay around. He's very snuggly. He loves to lay in your lap. He loves to be petted and snuggled and everything, and I love him to death. He's so stinking cute. All right, most and least liked book tropes. So I'm just going to say what my favorite is and my least favorite, so to keep it short. My most favorite is probably the quest trope. I love it when there's a nice quest to go on. There's a purpose, there's a reason, there's a set of things they need to do. I love the quest trope. That really probably goes with me liking checklists. Interesting. My least favorite trope is the love triangle. As I said, I don't like romance in books that much, especially if it's the main focus. And I don't like love triangles. I've read some really terrible ones in my time. I'm trying to remember the name of the series. Oh yes, the Splintered series by A.G. Howard. That had the worst triangle in it. And like the ending to the triangle was terrible. Oh my goodness. I hate love triangles. Hate them. I did really love it when I read Twilight in my early 20s, like late teens, early 20s is when I read Twilight. And at the time I loved that series. It's not one of my favorites anymore. And at that time, the love triangle didn't bother me. But now, I hate love triangles. I really do. They drive me crazy. All right, let's move on. Outside of books, what are my favorite things to do? So, thankfully, my husband and I have a lot in common to where we really like doing a lot of things together. We both really, really love to cook, so we love trying new recipes, so we love cooking together. That's always something really fun. I also like to play video games, not hardcore, but I really love playing like mystery puzzle games, like hidden object games. I love those things. They're so fun. The Mystery Case Files brand. That brand has the best ones. I also like playing the Nancy Drew games. I love playing Animal Crossing. I also love doing crafting. I love cross-stitching. I just love in general crafty things. I love home decor. So yeah, there's a bunch of random things that I like to do with my time other than books. How are my sewing projects going? Speaking of cross stitch, so I've been working on this cross stitch all year. I got it out of its hoop so I could show you. So it's a snowy scene of Hogsmeade. It's got the big imprint from the hoop there, but I'm on the last fourth of it. I started this in March. I started it basically when quarantine hit. I was like, okay, I need a cross stitch. And this is the biggest cross stitch I've ever done. It's massive. I can't wait till it's done because I can't wait to put it in a frame. I'm going to put it in the kitchen. I just think it's so pretty. But I love it. I love the way it's turned out. It looks so good. And it's so big. And I've had so much fun making it. But I've got the last quarter left. I'm excited to finish it. Such exciting times. All right, 2 more questions, you guys, and I'm almost done. How often do I play musical instruments? So if you didn't know this, I play violin. That's my main instrument. I also can play a few other instruments as well. I can play a little bit of piano, a little bit of guitar. I used to play harp, but violin's always been my main instrument. Other than singing, I used to take voice lessons for, oh gosh, I think like 11 years. But I play violin at my church, not every single Sunday, but I get to play, I would say probably once a month. I'm also getting to play for Christmas concerts we're doing this year. So I really love the fact I get the opportunity to play at my church. I love it. I get to play in the praise band, and it's a freaking blast. I love it. It's so fun. And I just did a video recording for like a Christmas special we're doing, and I got to play violin for that too, which was absolutely terrifying, but really, really fun. But terrifying. So I get to play pretty often, and I really, really enjoy it a lot. I love playing violin. It's a good time. My mom taught me, so I try to make her proud and do the best I can when I play. All right, last question. Is River still watching Greatest Showman? River is my daughter's name. She was super into Greatest Showman. If you know anything about little kids, you know that they get obsessed about one specific thing, and that's their obsession. For a while it was Frozen. She was really into Frozen, and then she was really into Frozen 2, and then she was really, really into Greatest Showman, which she still has the soundtrack and loves the soundtrack. We haven't watched Greatest Showman in a while. Her obsession lately has actually been some Disney Channel original movies with some of the newer ones. She has discovered Descendants. Lord help me. I do like those. I feel like if I watched them when I was a kid, I would have been obsessed with them. And they're actually not that bad. But she really likes those. We also watched, what was it? I think it was called Teen Beach Movie, which I've never watched, and she wanted to watch it on a whim, and it was cringy. It was so cringy, but she loved it. So she's all about any of those movies that have like music stuff and singing and, sorry, I've been talking for way too long. I got a bad tickle in my throat. But she loves anything that's like a musical. Anything that's like a musical. So that's her obsession now, is just like rando Disney movies that are like musicals. And the Teen Beach movie was just painful. It was so painful. If you haven't seen it, I don't know if I could say I recommend it. It's terrible, but it's so terrible that it's funny. So if you want to just watch something awful but laugh about it, there's a good one for you. Okay. That was a lot of questions. This is a long video. I've talked for a long time. I'm sorry if this was really boring. I'm sorry I've coughed a few times. I have a really bad tickle in my throat, and I think it's just because I've been talking for so long and I don't have a drink here with me, which I should have grabbed one. That would have been smart. But thank you again for subscribing to my channel. Thank you for all the questions. How did I get so many? This is nuts. Again, if you didn't get to ask a question and you wanted to, leave it down below. If I get enough, I can do another video, or I can just answer the question. But dude, this was really fun. This is really cool. So thank you again. I'm so glad you're here. Thank you for subscribing. I love you guys. If you want to subscribe to my channel and haven't yet, my logo's here. You can watch another one if you want to right now. But thank you so much for watching. You rock. And don't forget to keep reading. Bye.